what you wind up with is what we call hot spots, which means when the light is shown on the road, shined, whatever. I don't know. The light output isn't uniform. You get maybe like a very bright spot here, and then it's not so bright over here, and then it's pretty bright here, and then not so bright over here. You also get what we call straight light above the cutoff line, meaning with a normal HID projector, and I wish I could show you this right now, but the cutoff line is very, very sharp. It's like very, very intense light, and then right above it, it's almost nothing, so very good. But what happens when you put these rebase bulbs in is you get kind of straight light shining up in people's eyes, and you can blind people. I mean, not really blind them, but you get a pretty bright light that you're throwing up in people's eyes when you're driving towards them. So that's the downfall of these plug-and-play kits. Let's look at how they work in these actual lights. You'll notice over here that this rear cover back here has a hole drilled in it. Well, that's because this depot light came with an HID plug-and-play kit. Sold on the forums, so I don't have it with me here, but we had noted that this 4-prong harness over here makes the connections internally, right? Well, we also noted that the HID bulbs require special types of ballasts to run them in order to power the bulbs. So that coupled with the fact that these internal connections are made within the headlight, well, we need wires that come externally to go into the bulbs. So what they wind up doing is giving you a light with a hole drilled in the back of it, and they feed the connector for the bulb through this hole. They give you a little rubber grommet that goes in here to weatherproof things. The wire comes out, goes to the ballast, and the ballast in turn plugs into your 9006 headlights. So that's how these work. Again, a little bit ghetto rigged. I mean, you're running a setup that's a glass capsule glued onto a base that it's not meant for, and then you're running ballast in the car that the electrical system wasn't ever meant to take. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then you're drilling a hole in the back of this headlight cover over here to feed the wires through. So does it work? Yeah, it works. Is it brighter than having the halogens? Well, yes and no. We'll talk about that in a minute. Is it optimal? Not really. There are better ways of doing this, which we'll also talk about in a minute. So let's talk about color temperature for a minute. Color temperature is basically exactly what it sounds like. It's the color of the light that you're putting out from your headlights. Okay. So now we have a spectrum scale over here. This is measured in what we call degrees Kelvin. Okay. At the top over here we got the blue end of the spectrum. At the bottom over here we got the yellow end, then eventually the red end of the spectrum. And somewhere in the middle over here we've got pure white. Okay. Now pure white light, which exists, and it's not labeled on here, but exists around like 43, 44, 100K, maybe 4350, something like that. That is pure white. Pure white is as pure as the light can get. You are going to have the most usable light output that your lights can put out on the road if they are at a pure white color temperature. Okay. Now the farther you move away from this pure white, like 4300, 4400K, up either towards the blue end of the spectrum or towards the yellow end of the spectrum, the farther you move away from that midpoint, the less light output you actually have that you're putting on the road. Okay. So now you'll have some different options that you can have when you go to order a Xenon plug-and-play kit, for instance. You can order a 6000K. You can order an 8000K kit. You can even order them that are, they're towards the yellow end of the spectrum, a little bit lower, maybe 3000K, something like that. Again, best light output that you can have is pure white. All, I repeat, all OEM, HID, Xenon systems that come with cars from the factory are 4300K. All of them, okay? Now, why is it that when you're driving around, you see a brand new like E90 BMW driving towards you and it's got HIDs and they look blue or they look purple? If I just told you that their light output is pure white, why is that? Well, it's kind of an effect. Hold on. Kind of an effect of the optics of the projector itself. Now we had noted before that we have the cutoff shield, which is producing a line above which there's pretty much no light. Well, there's still light there, but the way that the optics work, and it's kind of an effect of this projector, the light is what we call color shifted. It is pure white below the cutoff line, above the cutoff line, it's color shifted to blue. Okay? So when I'm driving around and I have this HID projector in my car and it's shining light out on the road, what I'm seeing on most of the road that I'm illuminating is pure white light, around 4300, 4400K, something like that. What you're seeing, because your eyes are hopefully above my cutoff line, what you're seeing is color shifted light up towards the blue end of the spectrum. So what these vendors do and what people oh, you know, I want my HIDs to look cool, like, you know, the E90 that I saw, or like the brand new Benz that I was rolling next to yesterday. Well, you're seeing light output above their cutoff line. You're seeing it color shifted. Getting an 8000K HID kit, not going to give you the light output that they actually have, that they're actually seeing when they're driving the car. They're seeing pure white. You know, again, because that's below the cutoff line. So that's a little bit about color temperature. If you're going to go with an HID plug-and-play kit, get the color temperature that's as close to pure white as you can. Be it 6000K, or if they sell it even lower at 4500K or 4400K, something like that, that is optimal. If you go with like an 8000K kit, 10,000K especially, even 12,000, which is almost ultraviolet, it's almost like a black light. I don't know how they even get away with selling those things. It's not going to be optimal. If you go with like an 8000K kit, I'll tell you, your light output, you'd be better off just running the halogen bulbs, because it's not going to be an upgrade at all. So think smart. I mean, think function over form. If you're going to spend the money on an HID kit, if you're going to upgrade your lighting, don't go with a light output that's pretty much blue and barely putting anything out on the road. Go with the pure white. Go with something that's actually going to be you know, an upgrade from what you have in your stock automobile with the US headlights. So a little bit about color temperature, just to let you know where these numbers come from when you're ordering an HID kit. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about electronics. Now, I said that I don't have any ballasts here. I happen to have some pictures of them. Okay. These are OEM HID ballasts. These are halogen 3s. These are actually out of a Porsche Carrera, I believe. Now, these ballasts are the type of ballasts that you need to run the HID bulbs that we're talking about before. As it turns out, these things draw a lot of current. They don't draw a lot of current when they are functioning at their state of equilibrium. They draw a lot of current at startup. HID bulbs, when you first turn the car on, what happens is they'll kind of like shine up real bright, and then they'll get dim, and then they kind of ease into their equilibrium, and they get brighter, and then they kind of trail off into the overall intensity that they're going to put out for the life of the time that they're on. So what happens during that startup sequence? These ballasts draw a ton of current. These in particular draw upwards of 14 or 15 amps, which doesn't sound like a lot. That's a hell of a lot, considering the stock fuses in your E36 are rated at 7.5 amps. Okay, the stock fuses in there may not be fast acting enough to catch this, meaning the spike in current may go up and then back down real quick. The fuse may not pop, but what's happening over time, if you start your HIDs up every single day, a couple times a day, you're drawing current through the wiring in the car that it was never designed for. This could be a little bit of a problem. We hope that BMW over-engineered the cars a little bit, and it's not going to be a big problem. We're not going to have any problems with our wiring, but some people do. Other cars, I've seen the wiring harnesses just plain burnt to a crisp from running plug-and-play kits. I've not heard of that happening with the BMWs, with E36s. Hopefully we have a little bit more of a stroke of luck, so just something to be aware of. You could, I mean, it's not definite that you're going to, but there's a possibility that you could damage your internal wiring using these ballasts. Okay, now there's a way around that. It's called a wiring harness. It works off of a relay. It takes power from the battery as opposed to taking it directly from the lines that feed the stock headlights. So Google it, look on hidplanet.com. You'll find a lot of different schematics for how to make wiring harnesses that will completely negate anything that will damage your wiring